DAB Digital Radio. This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Yes, good morning if you've just tuned in. It's the JVS show. I'm Jonathan Vernon-Smith. Coming up at 11 today, I'll be dealing with your consumer problems. A little later on in this half hour, we're going to talk about interest-only mortgages, and I'll be asking you, are you worried about paying off your mortgage? But first, we're discussing tasers and the increasing use of them, or certainly the increasing numbers of police officers that have the potential to use them. In Hertfordshire, at the moment, 125 officers are taser trained, but that's to rise to 160 apparently. Well, if you look at the whole of Hertfordshire Police, you've got 1,900 police officers out there. If only 160 are going to have tasers, is that enough when they're dealing with the kinds of criminals that sadly they have to deal with on a daily basis? 160, is that enough? Should all police officers be armed with tasers? 08459 455 555. Let's get some reaction to this from Sophie Khan, who's a solicitor who represents people who've been tasered. She's also the director of the Police Action Centre. Hello, Sophie.
Hello, Jonathan.
Hi. So I take it you'd be very against lots more police having access to tasers, would you?
I would be, yes, because there needs to be a risk and consequence analysis before there is this rollout of tasers in Hertfordshire.
But why? We know that criminals are arming themselves. We know that many criminals, particularly young men, are arming themselves with knives. Surely to send your average bobby on the beat out onto the streets where these criminals hang out without something that is capable of disarming those individuals, that's irresponsible, isn't it?
It's not irresponsible because the level of crime has fallen in the last decade. So I don't know where you're getting your facts from, but the knives that are on the streets of Hertfordshire, I think there would be few and far between because the level of crime has gone down. So whether the increase of tasers will counter any of that crime is to be seen.
So you believe the number of knives is going down, do you? The
number of knives is going down, and the crime is going down generally. So the increase in the use of tasers doesn't make sense compared to what the figures are for crime. If that was the other way around, then there may be an argument that we need to have more tasers on the streets. But because crime is going down, the argument for having more tasers isn't there. Well, that's what I'm putting forward.
I don't know where you live, Sophie. I'm interested to know where you live, because certainly in Beds, Herts and Bucks we cover lots of areas, and I can tell you for a start, we are constantly reporting that there have been knife crimes, gun crimes, dangerous crimes.
Right.
You take somewhere like Luton. There are some horrific crimes that are going on in Luton. We're not living in this kind of lovely heartbeat style world anymore. There's some very dangerous criminals out there.
There are dangerous criminals out there, but there are also, if for example the firearms unit is there to deal with any kind of gun crime, or even with knives, the firearms unit can be called to assist. But whether we need to have all officers in Hertfordshire having tasers is, I think, very disproportionate. I understand you're saying that you report a lot of the crime on your radio show.
Yes, horrific.
Yeah, but I can't, across the country, the level of crime has gone down. So, that's something that's, the stats have been provided. So that must also apply to the crime levels in Hertfordshire.
It may well be. Yeah. Perhaps it's because the policing is getting better. But to ignore the fact that there are lots of criminals out there who do have knives, who do have guns, who do go out onto housing estates late at night with metal bars, terrifying individuals who live there, and to say, well, we don't need to arm our police adequately to deal with them, just give them a little whistle, and if they see these young individuals, blow your whistle at them nice and loud and they'll run off. It's just silly.
Well, I don't think they carry whistles anymore. That maybe it would have been in the 19...
Well, from the way you're talking, it sounds as if you kind of quite like that.
Well, it's handcuffing, restraint through the normal restraint procedures, calling for backup, talking to the individuals, trying to resolve the issue that way, or if you need be, to call the firearms team if it is going to escalate. But there is a need for tasers, but not at the level that you're advocating.
What's the problem with it, though? I mean, if you see, Sophie, in many ways, it's a good job that I'm not a police officer. Because if I had my way, I'd taser most criminals as a matter of course.
Oh, I see.
Anybody running away from me, for example, I'd give them a good zapping.
Oh, right.
What would be the problem with it, though? I mean, they're not going to die, are they? They just have a big old electric shock, writhe around on the floor, job done. If they were committing a crime, good.
Oh, I see. So what about the human rights elements to the person's...
I don't care about the human rights. If they're committing a crime, I don't care. Give them a good old zap.
Right. That's quite shocking to hear that, Jonathan. But it's not a view that I've...
It's not shocking to me. I think it makes perfect sense. If we did more of this, if we zapped more criminals who let's not tiptoe around this. There are criminals out there ruining people's lives on a daily basis. Yeah. There are criminals making various town centres, housing estates, no-go areas for people that have to live there. And to tiptoe around it is naive and silly, in my opinion.
I don't think it's tiptoeing around it. What it is, it's the proportionate use of force. Is it proportionate to zap everyone, like you say? If they're running away, zap them. I mean,
why not? If it's going to stop them, and hold them to account, why not?
Well, if someone is running away and
they're trying to run away so they can get out of the crime that they've just committed, so they can get away with it.
But if there was another way to apprehend that individual...
But there isn't another way to apprehend that individual, because if they run off, run off. So give them a zap, bring them down on the ground, handcuff them, take them back to the police cell, lock them up and deal with them. Job done. What's so wrong with that?
They don't need to zap them. They could,
But if you can't catch them,
they could, apprehend them. But the thing is that...
But if you can't catch them, then why not just zap them?
Well, if they can't catch them, the police may need to do, fitness tests so they can, run faster.
The police might need to do... Are you accusing the police of being fat and unable to chase individuals who commit crime?
To do fitness tests, and so that at least they can run faster than, the average individual.
If you are chasing, if you've got a car with 4 16-year-olds who've stolen that car, they're joyriding around an estate, putting everybody's life in danger, those individuals know that all they have to do is drive that car down a certain part of the estate, stop the car, all of them leg it in different directions. The police stand very little chance of being able to catch any of them. What is so wrong with giving them a zap with a taser? OK, if you haven't got a taser, if you've got a dog, send the dog after them and get the dog to give them a good old bite and bring them down in that way, then at least you can hold them to account for the crimes they've committed.
Any use of force by a police officer has to be proportionate. So zapping people willy-nilly or sending a dog to bite someone wouldn't be proportionate under the...
putting everybody's life at danger, driving around a housing estate, joyriding in a car that you're uninsured in and probably haven't even got a licence for?
Well, this is a hypothetical scenario that you're talking about.
It's the kind of scenario that happens every single week in Bedfordshire, Bucks.
Okay, but there is also alternatives to the way people can be apprehended, which doesn't...
Not if they run away. If they run away, you've lost them. So what is so wrong with saying, I'm not going to let this little oik who has put everybody's life in danger get away, I'm going to zap him in the back. Bring him down, he'll scream and shout, put the handcuffs on him, get him in the back of the car and take him back to the police station where we can then deal with him.
Yeah, I mean, making someone scream and shout is not the purpose of policing in this country. It may be in other countries, but here it should be very much by policing by consent, policing through negotiations, policing through proportionate use of force. And if everyone is going to be zapped, it's going to become, policing by force. I mean, I think, Jonathan, I should say that if anyone's, having a weapon or any kind of gun, in that scenario, the police would have the right to, use the taser as an option. So it's only when there isn't that weapon or gun involved that I would say there's a disproportionate use of force on that individual.
Well, Sophie, I don't think we're ever going to agree on this. But thank you so much for your time.
All right.
Sophie Khan, who's a solicitor.